Thanks. Chad's giving away free money. Has anybody written a grant before? How many? Raise them high. You can't. Just a couple. Don't be scared of it. It's easy. Okay. Call them. Take advantage of it. I'm Jason Roblin. I'm your Emergency Management Director for Huron County. I think I was asked to speak about weather safety. She said tornado safety. I'll be glad to start off with that. I guess the audience today is all risk managers, all of you. Anybody not a risk manager, somehow involved in the safety of your operation? What is it that you do?
I work at Shields, and I'm working in the stock area and the service area.
Okay. Are you in charge of employees in any way?
No.
No, but you are an employee?
Yes, sir.
So you're worried about your own safety?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So mostly it's people who are in charge of the safety of others, which is important. I mean, that's why you're here, right? I guess specifically with tornadoes, it's usually the second, sometimes third leading cause of death for weather-related fatalities across the United States. It's actually lower than that across the U.S. It's third in Ohio. Across the U.S., it's down around 5. Number 1 is flooding. Number 2 is actually heat-related fatalities. And on a day like today, I mean, obviously, you got to be careful out there, right? So with the cold snap we've had, that doesn't, yeah, it doesn't seem realistic on the winter we've had, but that's number 2. Lightning fatalities actually edges out tornadoes nationwide. In Ohio, it's actually very close. So on average, you need to worry about a lot of things. But within your 4 walls, within the confines of your business, tornado safety is definitely one of the big ones. So do you actually have shelter locations designated? Everybody? I hope so. Do you have that posted or advertised to the employees, say, once a year, twice a year, every now and then you go over it? I hope it's on a calendar somewhere that you talk about it. Doesn't have to be all the time. You know, schools do their drills, you know, and there's a calendar for it. They do their fire drills, and there's a calendar for that. They do their lockdown drills, there's a calendar for that. You know, it's all probably, hopefully, the same calendar that somebody's looking at. But, you know, with business and industry, it's up to you. You know, I don't think too many of you are mandated to do tornado drills at a certain interval, correct? Right. It's just up to you to create your own best practice. So when you're looking for shelter locations, next time you have a few extra minutes and you want to look at your plan, I smile because we have plans that we haven't looked at in far too long as well. I understand, but when you get to it, you're looking for rooms that are to the inside of your structure, the lowest floor possible. You know, everybody says go to the basement. Go to the basement. Well, that's true. If you have one, take advantage of it. If you don't, you want an interior room with walls as close together as possible and no windows. Okay, so hallways. You know, in this building, the hallway here is probably pretty decent. If there's a basement, that'd be even better. You know, get down there. But, the thought is that, you know, there are two main risk factors that you're trying to avoid if you do sustain wind damage to the structure. You're worried about debris from outside, so the windows, obviously. You want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible for debris. You don't want flying glass, straw, cows, you know, whatever happens to be flying out there hitting you. The second is your roof structure collapsing on you. If you look at some of the larger structures, some of the bigger tornado events that there have been, you see schools that are demolished and it's the roof caving in on the gymnasium that you want to keep the kids out of. There have been some studies that suggest that the placement of the people in the room, you actually want them against the wall, because if the roof collapses, that wall, there's like a triangle that's created between the roof structure collapsing, the wall, and the people, you know, hopefully in that triangle. So you want to stay out of the middle of the room. If you want to get really detail-oriented, look at which way your roof structure runs. You know, if you have the wall running the same direction as the roof structure, it's not helping you a whole lot. That beam's going to come in between your walls. Yeah, I mean, it's how much detail you want to put into it. So Another really good thing that you can focus on is how you warn your employees. The number one best thing you can do is get your warning early and often. In Ohio, we're not so, we don't have the luxury of a whole lot of advanced warning on the smaller storms. If you look at your weaker storms, your EF0 or EF1 storms, they develop under the radar of what the Weather Service is looking at quite often. You know, you're relying upon ground truth spotting. So there's a network of spotters that the Weather Service maintains. You know, we help them run that, and we help maintain that for them, but it's theirs. You know, and it's their rules and regulations and guidelines, and those spotters relay the information directly to the Weather Service. So that weather radio that you hear me talk about so much, and you will hear later today about weather radios, that's why. You know, the Weather Service is watching the radar. They're the ones that set out the warnings nationwide. Okay, they're also maintaining that network of Skywarn weather spotters that talk to them as well to give them additional information. So, weather radios. How many of you do have a weather radio? I think we pushed that pretty hard. Thank you very much. Something to note that if you have an older model and it annoys your employees and they unplug it on a regular basis, get a new one. You know, take the $20 out of a budget somewhere and get a new one that can be programmed specifically for the messages that you want. You know, the newer ones can be programmed by county. If you're near a county border, they can be programmed by multiple counties. They can also be programmed by message type. If you only want tornado warnings, you can pretty much take everything else out except hurricanes, and you're not going to get too many of those warnings, right? So you can take everything out that you don't want to hear. If you don't want advisories, take them all out. If you don't want watches, hopefully you're getting that information somewhere else. But if you don't want it being loud in your office for a watch, you can take them all out. You know, specifically leave what you want, okay? What other ways do you get your warnings? Weather Service? Phone? Are there different phone apps? There's gobs of them. We even have one. Okay, it's not automatic yet. Ours still relies upon a dispatcher at the sheriff's office hearing the weather radio or the information coming across their LEADS terminal, their law enforcement data system terminal. So if you have a weather radio, you're going to hear it, you know, before if you happen to be near the radio. If you're on the go, that phone's very convenient. And there are other apps too. News Channel 5's got one, I think. I mean, they probably all do. So if you have a smartphone, you're keyed in. Everybody have WeatherBug or some of the others? That drove me crazy. Drove me crazy last year. You know, we had quite a few severe weather events between severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings. The Weather Service has actually been developing weather warnings that are tower specific for cell phones. So this is kind of a new topic, and they don't. I'm not sure how many of you know about it. Anybody know about the IPAWS, Integrated Public Alerting System? I think that's what it stands for. Anybody know anything about that at all? Okay, I'll take 5 minutes of your life and educate you on that one. Through the WeatherBug app, I get warnings. But my phone, when I was at Cedar Point this last summer with the family, the sky's ominous. I'm the EMA director. I'm like, we're leaving. And I look at the radar. I'm like, oh yeah, we're leaving. And we're on the way out. I see some kids I know that I coach soccer for down at Willard. And I said, you need to go home. Oh, we just want to ride this water slide. Thunderstorm coming in, water slide. I'm like, no, you need to go home. Oh, all right, we'll think about it. I'm like, you do that. We're leaving. Bye-bye. They got caught in traffic on the way out. We just got to 250, and my phone gives this god-awful screech. Horrible. I mean, it really got my attention. It was piercing. And I look at it, and it's a message from the National Weather Service, tornado in your area, take cover now. I'm like, oh, holy. Turn around and look, and there's this little triangle of light through an otherwise dark wall. And I told my wife, I said, I know it says take cover, but we're headed south, away from that. Punch it. Let's get out of here. That system is based upon tower location and your GPS coordinates. So the tower knows basically what phones are talking to it, and they'll send out a message that's polygon based. The Weather Service will draw a shape on a map. It's all GIS, GPS location based. And it'll draw that shape, and whatever towers are inside that shape send the warning. That's generally how it works. Now, more specifically, it depends upon the cell provider for a few variables in the details. I forget who's who. I think Verizon, it's what tower is in that shape. I think Sprint Nextel is what towers are talking to phones within that shape. So there could be a tower outside of the shape. You're on the other side of the tower, and you might get the message even though you're not technically within the warning area, but you're close. So there are a few variables on how the different companies have implemented that. But I would suggest you give it a try, and then when it was all done, it said, do you want to keep this, or delete it? So you can actually go in and shut it off if you really want to. But we got home that night, and it went off again because they put another one out for Willard. Like, oh, that's nice. So we went to the basement. We were good. So phone apps, weather radios. What other kind of warning systems are out there? Email. You get email or text messages. Any others? Anybody watch the television? You take it upon yourself to listen to whoever your favorite, most charismatic personality is up there. It used to be Dick Goddard. He's spending less time on air, but he's still there. Yeah, television, radio. Stay alert. You'll ever just look out the window? Yeah, use your own two eyes, especially those of you that have a nice clear line of sight, flat land and no trees. And there's some rolling terrain around here, but there's also some flat lands. So, anything I'm forgetting?
Is there a particular place or area in the basement that you should go to?
There have been, no, just get to the basement. Just get there. That's the number one. They've had people hide underneath pool tables safely. That's probably most recommended if you have a heavy structure like that. They've had people under the main beam that were safe. They've had people under the main beam that died. They've had people near the west wall that were safe, people near the west wall that died. Just get to the basement, So, did you have another one?
Farmers and fields.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go?
Out of the fields.
What if your ditches are shallow?
What if your ditches are full of water?
Yeah.
Yeah, the muck farmers. Yeah. That's why early warning is so critical. Time is the only thing you might have on your side. If you wait too long to get out of the field, you're putting yourself at greater risk, honestly. Getting into a vehicle, if nothing else, is better than being out in the field. You have two schools of thought, I guess, is how we approach it. You have, when you have lots of warning, where do I want to go? And you have the, oh my goodness, it's here right now, what do I do? Moment. And that's kind of your retreat of last resort, I guess. And if you're in that moment, I hope you've predefined some locations that, that help. If not, then you're kind of on your own as far as thinking on your feet, And we've gone out with the Willard Fire Department down in the muck area to several of the farms down there to try to identify some of those locations where hey, if you're in the field, what do? Do you get back in the bus and ride it out? Do you go into the ditch and hopefully not drown? It's not easy. It's not easy. And there's no one answer where somebody can say, I'm taking responsibility to tell you this is where you go. Because in that moment, there may be no good answer.
I was just curious if you guys had come up with something new.
Oh, heavens no. No, tornado's been around a long time. Yes.
And is Tarrant County EMA still promoting the Everbridge system? Is that still up and running?
It is. It's actually due for a revamp. The company has contacted me about 6 months ago to automate the weather warnings and to give the user more selective options. So right now you can pick kind of the list that we defined as far as weather warnings, road and traffic events, parking bans, water outage. I mean, you can pick those community events yourself, and you can pick how you want to receive them. You can't select what hours of the day. Say there's a water outage, I don't really want that at 4 in the morning, but I either want it all the time or not at all. So the new system is going to have some of those variables where you can actually go in and be more selective on when you're going to receive those alerts. We didn't want to push it out right now because the dispatchers are still learning a new 911 system, a new computer-aided dispatch system. They've got enough on their plate, so we're waiting a little bit until that's in their knowledge bank, I guess you could say, before we push something new on them. Yeah, but we are still maintaining it. Tina at our office, she gets, I don't know, between 2 and 15 calls every day, people that don't have computer access that want help signing up. So yes, we definitely are taking care of that. And tomorrow I'm actually going to Sandusky County to compare notes. They have the same company. We're going to compare best practices, and I'm going to try to help them, and I'm going to try to learn from them on what they're doing well that we're not on administering that system. Yes?
Will those who are already signed up for emergency alerts automatically be notified of upgraded?
Yes, and that's another reason why I put it off. At first they said, oh no, everybody's going to have to sign up again. I said, well, we're not doing that to the 3,800 people that signed up. You're going to find a way to bring them over with us, or we're not doing it. And we let some other counties be the guinea pig on that one. And they called back and said, oh, hey, we figured it out. Everybody else wanted it too, so we figured it out for you. Yeah, I don't want to sign up again. And I don't want Tina to have to sign up another 200, 300 people that she's signed up over the last year and a half or two. Yeah. Yep. What about the siren system? We didn't cover that. That's kind of your, it's a big one, but a lot of things are misunderstood with it as well. Sirens are not meant to be heard indoors. So all of those other ways that you can receive your notifications that we discussed help you when you're indoors. But sirens are not meant to be heard indoors. Now you can probably hear them indoors quite often, yes? Have you ever been woken up by a siren? Anybody live in town and it's woken you up? That's great. That's wonderful.
It was a fluke.
Yeah.
It happened with the electricity and it went on.
Yeah.
Dragged my husband out of bed.
Glad it worked. She said it woke her up on accident. The power went out or there was a problem with the electricity and the siren awakening went off and woke everybody up. But those are the evils, necessary evils, I guess you could say. Sirens are not meant to be heard indoors. Okay, they're really loud, and typically cities or villages that take it seriously put them close enough together to where they overlap each other, and you can hear them indoors, but don't rely on that. Okay? Have a weather radio at home, not just the office. You know, put it in a place where you actually have to get up out of bed to go turn it off in the middle of the night. Ours is around the corner in the bathroom. It's annoying. We sometimes hate it, but we've adjusted the programming to where it's only waking us up for the things we want to be woken up for. So, tornado sirens have an effective range depending on the model, and if they're still up to par, if they're older ones, of I think 7,400 feet, so well over a mile. We do have some grants that have been putting new ones out there. The latest two were the Village of Greenwich. They now have 3, and this one actually got put into the park, which is where I want sirens. Where are people gathering outdoors? You know, it's supposed to be an outside warning device. So while it's nice to hit all of the homes in Norwalk, there's one at McGowan Park. There's one on Elm Street down by the J.C. Park. You know, they're strategically located near your outdoor venues. The latest one we put down at Burma Farm. They were nice enough to give us access to some of their land, and it's loud, I think. Anybody hear it? Is it pretty loud? Can you hear it inside the packing facility with the machinery running yet? This spring, maybe, check that out, because when everything's cranked up and going, I'm curious to see if you can even hear it at the closest building. The company actually came out and tested. They brought it out, and this was last year, and it was, I think, 11 degrees then too. But they brought a truck that actually has a boom lift on it and a big siren on it that they tested, and they could hear it over at the potato farm and several of the key locations. The firefighters actually went out and radioed in, yeah, I hear it, but they were standing outside to hear it. They were not inside a building. So with that test being hopefully equivalent to the new one, it'll have the same effective range and the same conditions. Hopefully the wind direction is, you know, not working against us.
Your test is still the first Wednesday?
Testing is different for each village or city. The city of Norwalk is the first Wednesday of the month at noon. I don't believe Willard is. Thursday? And somebody's on a Saturday, I think. Monroe. Yeah, the different ones set off by the sheriff's office are on Saturdays. So if you live down by Olena, there's one out in the township there that they control. And then they control the village ones too. New London, Monroeville, Wakeman, Greenwich. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but yeah. So it's across the board because your Huron County Emergency Management Agency owns absolutely no sirens. We don't cause a lot of information sharing, own any of them. We'll write the grant paperwork. Like I said, it's easy. It takes a few hours of my life here and there. But it gets the money to come in to put things up, but I don't own any of it because we don't get a budget from the commissioners to maintain it. So the siren that we put out at Burma Farm is actually owned by the township trustees in New Haven. They own it. They pay the electricity on it. I guess the bill is higher than they wanted. It uses about 80 cents of electricity a month, and they're getting a minimum metering fee of 30 or 40 bucks, I would imagine. So they're not happy about that, but thank you very much, New Haven Township. We appreciate your effort. We knew that was a possibility going in. So they're owned and operated by those agencies. Now, we will assist them. We will kind of remind them when it's time to make sure they're tested regularly, but things fall through the cracks. They still physically need to go out and test the batteries, even though it may work. Are they getting toward the end of their life? So I think I've covered every possible warning device that's currently known to man, that I know of anyway. How do you share that with your employees then? Who's actually monitoring the weather in your office? Is it you? Is somebody actually designated? Yes? I hope so. I hope so. So if you don't have somebody who's actually designated as the weather geek, find somebody that has that smartphone in their pocket 24/7. You know who they are. It might be you. It's me. I'm good with that. Yeah. But make sure that they're designated,
We have weather radios all throughout our building.
Yeah, and those people then share that information. Yeah, it should be that simple. So you need to receive the warning, and then you need to go share it with everybody else that happens to be around, right? So, pretty simple, huh? Yes?
I think the biggest problem that we face is getting people to take the warning seriously and actually go to the sheltered area.
Yeah. Did everybody hear what she said? It's hard. It's not easy because when it's a severe thunderstorm warning, no big deal. The message actually says stay away from windows and doors, or if you listen to it, windows, and but it's right. I mean, it is a severe wind event, and it doesn't take a tornado to kill you. Just because they call it a tornado doesn't mean that straight line winds are any less serious. So we've had some high wind events lately that were not tornadoes. Weather Service came out, and I know that the people whose homes were affected said, that was a tornado, I don't care what they say. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not a tornado, but it could still kill you. It's still just as serious. They still care just as much. They don't care what you call it. If it's not spinning, it's not a tornado. If it's spinning, then it chews up the vegetation. If there's any leaves on the trees, they're in tiny little pieces, and they're splattered on your neighbor's house. That's one of the big signs that, yes, it was a tornado. No matter how strong or weak, it does that every time. It's like a big blender, chops everything up. If you see tree branches with leaves still on them and they're toppled over, well, yes, it was serious. Yes, it knocked your tree over. Yes, it caused damage. It could have killed somebody, but technically it was not a tornado. So.
I remember a couple years ago, I think it was straight line winds went through Lakeland.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was early enough at night that I was still up, and I remember the wind, and there were no warnings about this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the wind, and I thought, man, that sounds like a tornado.
Well, you're.
The next day, there was a whole path stretch where trees had been taken out.
Yeah, you were right in the center of it. Abbott Street and across 20 from you in Wakeman also was devastated. It was.
Right. It was pretty.
Yeah.
At the time, it didn't last long, but there weren't any warnings, and I thought, what the heck is
Right.
that? But it was. Somebody could have been hurt with that, but I guess there's no way of predicting those straight line winds.
Right. Now they do get warnings on those usually. Even the Weather Service gets surprised. And what do you say about the weatherman? he can be right half the time and keep his job. You know, we tease him up there in Cleveland all the time about that, but it's true. I mean, you know, it's not an exact science. They're doing the best they can. They have hundreds of computer models telling them different things, and their job is to pick the one they think's right. Yeah. So, do we want to talk about tornadoes anymore? Switch gears a little, or no?
Season starts next month.
Oh, the tornado season. Thank you, Sue. The tornado season is always in full effect. There have been tornadoes in the state of Ohio in every single month of the year. There is an increase in spring, April, May, June, and some of July are kind of your key weather changing. Okay, but then, like I said, every single month. Then you get a little blip in October, November, you know, in the fall, and they do happen. So, you know, stay vigilant, stay on guard. Lightning safety. Can lightning strike twice in the same place? Sure. Lightning strikes the Empire State Building hundreds of times every year. Well, it's really tall and it's a good target, right? But it can be done. They used to say if you're out on the golf course golfing or whatever, you know, drop the clubs, duck and cover. Anybody familiar with that duck and cover? A couple years ago, they changed their tune and they said, okay, well, don't duck and cover. People are still getting killed. Run for it. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember what their technical term is, but that's what it boils down to, is run for it. You need to be in a sturdy structure or a vehicle with rubber wheels. So, you know, if you're a Mennonite farmer and you got the steel wheels, they're not going to help you much. Convertibles aren't going to help you. You need to have a real steel roof on it. But they were finding that people, you know, mostly on golf courses, were ducking and covering, and you know to stay away from the trees. You know, go out in the middle area. Well, the tree roots follow, and it was hitting a tree root up out of ground, zapping the person, ducking and covering where they thought they were safe. So, you know, run for it. The Weather Service actually has a nice little, they did last time I was there, a year ago, lightning safety toolkit on their website. Their websites are not easy to navigate, so I suggest that you Google. Google does a wonderful job of navigating the clutter that is the National Weather Service and NOAA, their parent federal agency. If you want the actual website, it's www.lightningsafety.noaa.gov. Or see me, I'll let you write it down afterwards. But if you Google lightning safety NOAA, N-O-A-A, you'll get the little toolkit. And it's got some interesting facts and whatnot, but it actually has a little checklist in the back. And there's 5 things on it. So I love simple things. There's 5 things on this checklist. Okay, we're not talking about an hour of your life here. You know, 5 minutes you can read it and be a bit more aware of lightning safety. So,
Can
what?
lightning strike you in your home while you're inside?
Yeah, lightning can strike you when you're inside too. I mean, it's not unheard of, but
It can come through the roof.
usually your electrical outlets. You know, usually electrical outlets. People working in the kitchen near the sink, on the telephone. Sure. We lost our computer through a lightning strike once. We had it unplugged, but we didn't unplug the phone line. And this is back in the day of dial-up modem. So the modem went bad. $50 later, I had it up and running. 2 weeks later, sound card went bad. Another $80, $50, whatever. I was up and running, and the hard drive crashed. Like, you got to be kidding! There's just a little gremlin in there that was chewing things up constantly. So, when thunder roars, go indoors. That's their new motto. So, yeah, that's it. So, how much time do we still have? Am I on eggshells here? Or what time is it? What? How much? Seriously, how much time? 25 minutes. Wow.
But you don't have to.
All right, but I don't have to take it. Sue wants to get back to work. You don't have to take them all. All right. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't hold you hostage a little bit for flood safety. Sorry, but that way we'll hit the big 3 at least. Okay, tornadoes, lightning, and floods, which are actually floods, lightning, and tornadoes in order of how many Ohioans they kill each year. But flooding, you get your warnings the same way. Same exact way, Weather Service, right? Floods have a lot more, typically, flood warnings, not flash flood, but flood warnings have a lot more advance notice. Okay, so you'll know a day in advance, you'll know 12 hours in advance, you'll know before you get in the car to drive that, yeah, it's been raining a lot lately. There's snowpack out there now. They're talking about flooding next week. You know, next week it's going to warm up to 50 and it's going to rain. Well, with, 8, 10 inches of snowpack, whatever it might be, that's at least an inch of water sitting on the ground right now. So typically snowfall is 10 to 1. So
Something to look out for, because I noticed our river, and we live right next to it.
Mhm.
It's all ice.
yeah.
Flow. What are some things that we can look out for at that time?
Yeah, they're going to call for ice jams. The city of Findlay is already scared stiff about it. You can call the Weather Service in or call your I don't know if the dispatchers would call the Weather Service, but if you actually see an ice jam, they need to know, because then whoever is in charge of that road needs to monitor it and either close it or not. But those ice jams, depending on how thick the ice is, it's going to back everything up and flood roadways rather quickly. It's very serious.
All the years we've lived there, I've never seen it. And this
Mhm.
year, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some events here. I mean, just the Clarksfield area. It takes Zenobia Road. Route 60 a few years ago, it wasn't too long ago, it flooded north of 18. There's a stretch that's pretty low there next to the river. And they had a good 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of water on the road in the middle of winter that froze. And so ODOT closed Route 60 for, I don't know, it was weeks on end, 6 inches of ice on the road. There's not much they can do about that, That's what it is. So, your flood warnings, take them seriously. Find alternate routes. Stick to the main roads. Turn around, don't drown is their rhyme. They have a rhyme for everything at the Weather Service. But if the water is over the road, you really are taking your own life in your own hands. I mean, there's no other way to say it. We actually lost somebody here a few years ago, the Roswell drowning. It's tragic. And it will happen again if people are not, aware of that every single time, and they're not even all avoidable. I can't tell you, don't know the details of, nobody knows but her and she's gone, whether she actually saw the road was flooded or not before she was in it. So 6 inches of rapidly moving water will knock somebody off their feet and you're gone. A foot or less will take a lighter car like that and it's gone. So 2, 3 feet, and the heaviest truck you're driving, it doesn't matter. It's a whole lot of force being pushed against the contact surface. Your tires don't have a whole lot of rubber on the road. You take the biggest, widest tire, that you know of that you drive on the road legally, and there's still, how big that tire is. There isn't a whole lot of contact with the road. So it doesn't take much to push it off. And your flash floods are even worse. You don't get the warning with flash floods. The Weather Service will put a flash flood warning up, and you might have a few hours worth of notice. And that's if you were awake and paying attention to it. It's tough. And there's not always going to be a road closed sign or a high water sign. You might be the first one out there to report it. You might be the first one. I mean, a lot of you are probably up early and on the roads early, correct? Yeah. So you might be the one calling it in. Call 911. Say, yeah, I'm sure you're busy, but do you know about this road? Just want to let you know, thanks. Click. You don't need to take up a whole lot of their time, but they need to know about it. They need to get a deputy or state patrolman or township trustee or whomever out there, with a vehicle to block the roadway until they can actually get a road closed sign out there. So, we could talk about flooding as far as property damage in your homes and things like that. Typically your flash floods are road events, and that's why I stress it. So, same thing with weather safety. Leave early. Find an alternate way. Yes.
I'm curious to know if anyone has looked into the possibility of diverting the water that floods down here by Water Street and places all the time at the bottom of the hill here.
Yeah. Sure. I know a little bit about that. Water Street is named Water Street. because it does get some water now and then. The town creek isn't too far away. Norwalk Creek goes right by. So after the July 06 flooding, 2006, there were some studies done by the city of Norwalk, and there was a seawall idea to keep Water Street from flooding. It was a multi-million-dollar project that the FEMA grant wasn't going to pay for. And at the end of the day, the project itself would allow water to flow past where Benedict is and actually back up again. There's nothing to stop it from backing around. So, FEMA looked at that and said, well, that's great for diverting the initial floodwater, but it's going to bottleneck down here somewhere. It obviously has some other curves, and there's nothing to keep it from backflowing. At the end of the day, that's in the floodplain. I mean, it's in the floodplain, and there should have been building restrictions ages ago that were not in place. If you look at most of the payments that FEMA makes out, it's to the same structures, and once they get a check from FEMA in any way, shape, or form, no matter what program it might have been through, whether it's a grant program to modify the home or whether it's for losses they actually sustained from when they were flooded, they are required to maintain flood insurance for, I think it's 3 years. It's a set number of years. Well, most people pay it, and they stop paying it. Oh, we haven't had a flood in 5 years, we're fine. We haven't flooded in 10 years, we're fine. Or they sell the home and the next owner doesn't buy it. And so they have these repetitive flood loss structures. That's what they technically call them, repetitive flood loss structure. And Water Street's full of them. It's just full of them. And the building codes now, it's difficult at best to require somebody to modify an existing structure that they just bought. You're going to push business out of town. You don't want to do that. But new construction, building codes for new construction, they can keep you from building certain ways within the floodplain. So if you look at certain areas that are parks, like the J.C. Park, there's a picture of that on the front cover of our mitigation plan for natural disasters, where it's flooded and all you see is the roof of the shelter. That's all you see. It's all water. Well, it's a great place for a park. You didn't put a house there. You didn't put a home there. You didn't put a school down there. Great. But Water Street's a tough one. You already have businesses there. What do? The people that live down there and work down there understand that, and they do what they can. See a few of you here. Do what you can. They stay alert. They stay vigilant, and it's a tough one. And unless you want to move your business, it's hard. So, anybody else want to speak to that? No? It's a tough one. Yes?
I used to work for GeoShare.
Mm-hmm.
I was always under the impression that it was this part of the business was doing flood zone determinations, banks and other financial institutions.
Okay.
I thought that if you were in a floodplain, you had to have insurance or you didn't get a federally insured loan from a bank.
If you are in the 100-year floodplain,
Yeah,
that's true for mortgages.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying once you don't have a mortgage, you don't have to buy the.
Correct. Homeowner mortgages. Now, commercial, I don't know if those rules still apply. When you're talking about residents who have a mortgage on their home, yes, you absolutely have to. And my predecessor, Bill Omer, fought with a few banks over some homes in Monroeville that were technically in the floodplain, but they're 50 feet above the bank. There's no way the Huron River is ever going to rise 50 feet, and if it does, the people in Milan are underwater. Yeah, everybody in Milan's underwater if that happens. So they're looking at a two-dimensional map saying, oh, well, the line's drawn here with no elevation whatsoever, and at some point they have to drive out and look at it and have some common sense, which isn't always easy to get somebody from Chicago, FEMA Region 5 to come down here and say, oh, gee, you're right. So.
People thought that because they could put the home up on pylons, that as long as the land itself is down in that floodplain, you have to buy
Yeah, you actually could have no structure whatsoever in the floodplain, but your property stretches out into the floodplain, and they will fight you on it. You could have your house on a hill 500 yards away, but that one parcel that your house is on happens to have 2 feet down in the floodplain, and they're going to fight you on it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a beast.
We used to have to do special determinations for banks when there was disputes like that, and we would have to actually see where the structure was and make a determination that it was not. And once we gave that to the bank, they were fine, number of times.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Well, I see one person nodding off, so we're about, and I'm right there with you. Any final questions? I guess I'll wrap it up then. Yes.
Just one quick one.
Sure.
As a state umpire for baseball and softball,
Yeah.
they talk about lightning, that they started last year, they want us to clear the field, go to a building.
Yes.
Not in the dugouts, go to your cars, your bus, or whatever.
Right.
Because that, it could strike one part of the fence and travel along and shoot into a dugout.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of parents complain, like, why are you doing this?
Uh-huh.
But that's one of the reasons that we started doing it.
Yeah, the OHSAA rule, it follows a lot of the collegiate rules as well, that if you hear thunder, you clear the field, and you keep it clear for 30 minutes from the time you hear the last thunder or see the last lightning. So you might hear thunder, 29 minutes goes by, you hear another clap somewhere, the timer starts over again, you got 30 minutes again. And it drives parents crazy. But we would like the children to stay alive. You know, I mean, that's important. Lightning can strike 10 miles ahead of, behind, or beside a storm. So that's a long ways off. I mean, you hear the clap of thunder and you count to 8 or 10, that's 2 miles. You know, every 5 seconds is a mile when you hear thunder. So, speed of sound, yada yada. Somebody smarter than me came up with that, but you know, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, you get to 5, that's a mile. So 10 miles, you won't even hear that. It could hit you. We had a lady in the Clarksfield area hit by lightning on her lawnmower. Not a cloud in the sky near her. You know, it was storming in Norwalk and it was headed her way and hit by lightning. You know, what are you going to do about that? You know? Yeah. So take it very seriously. And I coach soccer down in Willard, and parents aren't happy when we clear the field either, but sorry about your luck. You know, that's just the way it is. And you can't get everybody to clear the field. You're going to have some idiots out there, and at some point in time you're going to say, well, my safety is important too. I'm leaving. I warned you. So, you know, take it seriously, please. Any others? No? None?
Do you hear very many people being struck by lightning inside the house?
No. Very rare, but it does happen.
My brother, when he was 10, he was 60 now.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to his baseball coach on the phone, leaning against the old refrigerator.
Uh-huh.
Lightning came in on the phone line.
Yeah.
He was out cold for at least 4 hours.
Yeah, it does happen. But much more rare.
I was wondering, it does, well, he was my neighbor. I went to call the squad from my neighbor's house, and they wouldn't let me use the phone there either. And they had all their TVs on, because they had lightning come in and strike all of their TVs and radios.
Yeah.
Quite a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah, property damage is very high with lightning strikes. 90% of those that are struck survive, but they are oftentimes never the same. You know, it's life-changing. It can be.
So is it dangerous to also be on your cell phone when it's done?
I don't know. I have no idea on that one. Okay. Right, right. Yes. Ball lightning? Can you explain what that is? Can you explain what that is? Ball lightning? Is that your static electricity discharge?
I don't know. I just heard up where it comes in the house and it runs.
I've heard the term, and I honestly can't speak to it. I know it's a legitimate term. I've heard it, but I really can't give you any knowledge on that. It's probably in this book here. If you want to give me a few minutes, I could find it. The Weather Service. Sue, did you have another one?
I guess not.
Don't want
I
to
thought
put you on the
that
spot.
wall lightning, too.
Yeah.
It was on TV a couple of years ago, but I can't, yeah, I can't remember a whole lot about it, but it's not good.
It's not good.
Remember that.
The word, yeah, anything with the term lightning. Heat lightning, not good. Any of it, right. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. And